Let's take a look at how the map was created so that if you are inclined to recreate it yourself, you can do so. And this is the finished version. I am looking at the layers panel. I'm going to turn off the SF layer so that we hide that detail of the Bay Area. We're left with just an outline of the state of California with this semi-transparent triangle pointing to that circle that marks the spot. On the outline of the state, there are a couple of effects applied, and if I open my appearances panel, I can throw both of those away so that we can recreate them. They are an inner glow and a 3D bevel and extrusion. So I will select the outline of the state and then come to the effect menu. We'll do the 3D first of all. Extrude and bevel. Let's turn on the preview. And this is just going to give the whole thing a bit more visual interest. It's looking a bit flat without this. So I can spin this little preview around here and watch how it affects my map on the artboard. And I can also just punch in the numbers that I want. Just slightly offset. And I'd like to extrude the coastline a bit more so it has more of a 3D effect. So I'm going to increase that value to 120 points. Click OK. The second thing I want to do is the inner glow, which is going to give it a bit more presence on the page. So under the effect menu again, stylize, inner glow, and it is the golden state after all, so I'd like to have a nice gold color to use there. A little bit brighter than that, maybe something along those lines. Click OK, and because I want it to be darker, I'm going to choose multiply rather than screen. Let's see how that's working. Turn on my preview. Not a whole lot going on. I need to increase the amount of blur. And yes, that's looking more like it. Very good. So now I'll come back to my layers and we can turn on the tracing map and let's lock the outline layer, and I would then create a new layer. Let's zoom in on this. If I'm finding that my outline is a bit distracting, and I think I am, maybe I'll just go and hide it for the time being. I now need to, with my pen tool, just trace around the different elements of the map. So it's going to be creating a series of shapes, closed paths, and a series of stroked paths which will represent the roads. Pen tool, I want to make sure that I have no fill, because I don't want these yet to be filled. And I want to make sure that they have a stroke. So I'll just give them that dark grey colour for now. Doesn't really matter what colour they have. It's going to change once the areas are blocked out. You might be tempted to try and live trace this, but I can tell you that it's not really going to work that well, and you will get a far better result by actually tracing it manually by hand, even though that may be a bit painstaking to have to do, but it is going to get you a far better result. So we need to make sure that we end up with a closed path, like so. And then it's a question of filling each of these closed paths with whatever is an appropriate color. Maybe we can sample the color from this map, or I ended up using slightly more subdued colors than are in this map. And then I'm going to turn that layer off for a moment, turn back on the finished version. You'll see that the whole thing is clipped to this circular shape. And I'll just run through how that happens. If I select this and then come to the object menu, clipping mask, and release it, that's originally how it begins. So once the map is drawn, we draw the clipping shape, in this case the circle, over the top of the map. We select all, and if I do Command or Control A, I will select only that layer because the other layers are locked, and then come to the object menu, clipping mask, make. Now when I do that, my circle is going to lose the black outline that it had, because that's what happens to a clipping shape. If I want to restore the black outline, then I'll use my direct selection tool, click on the outline, and then I can come over to my swatches panel and click on the color that I want for the outline, and I will use that dark gray. One other aspect to this that I will explain, and that is this little compass thing here, which was just taken from one of the symbols libraries. So if I come to my symbols panel and then my symbols library maps, and it's right there, and we can just drag an instance of that symbol out into the layout and then repurpose it as we need to. So I'll go back and turn on the relevant layers. Presumably we're now at a point where we can toss the tracing map layer because we don't need that any longer. We can save this as an Adobe Illustrator file, an AI file, and then place that into our InDesign layout.